Being vegan is pretty incredible. You're no longer contributing to the suffering and death of billions of sentient beings. Your environmental impact goes down an insane amount. And depending on your type of diet, your health can dramatically improve as well. You kind of become a superhero. But, as was once said to such a hero, with great power comes great responsibility. And the awareness that veganism brings can be devastating. So, how are we vegans to stay hopeful against the enormity of suffering in this world? Who better to address this than the woman who calls herself the Joyful Vegan, author and speaker Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Hi, it's Emily from Bite Size Vegan, and welcome to another Vegan Nugget. The question of how to stay hopeful, or at the very least sane, as a vegan is one that I've been asked many a time. This is something that I personally struggle with greatly. So when I had the opportunity to speak with Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, the self-appointed Joyful Vegan, I was sure to ask her how she stays joyful. Let's hear from her, and then I'll share some of my own thoughts in the wrap-up. Well, Colleen, again, I wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and to share some of your wisdom about veganism.
Thanks for having me.
So I think a big question for especially people who are newer to veganism, but even people who've been vegan for a while, a challenge that can come along is how do you stay hopeful in a world that is not vegan? Like how do you be, as you call yourself, a joyful vegan in a non-vegan world?
I think it takes vigilance, and it takes a desire to want to be in the hopeful state versus not being in a hopeful state, because we choose at any given moment how we want to respond to this world. And some of us have a more innate natural response to things as they are, and some of us have to cultivate that response, and some of us are both, right? So I do tend to be a little bit on the optimistic side. I just kind of naturally gravitate toward hope, which I'm really grateful for. It's carried me through a lot in my life. But I also cultivate it. I choose hope. And that's really the message I convey to my audience, is that we can choose in any given moment. And I do believe that the way we think determines what we experience. And so if I want to see a hopeful world, that's what I'm going to direct my thoughts to. And so then the result is that I see hope. If I want to see pessimism and despair and torture and just hopelessness, I can choose that too, and that's all I'm going to experience. So I really do believe that we create our own realities in the sense of how we perceive the world and how we then put it back out in the world. And that doesn't mean, so sure, there's probably a little bit of cognitive dissonance there, because I have to block out some of it. We have to, or we would completely explode in how desperately, how desperate things are for animals, especially. We have to be able to separate some of it out, right? That's a survival mechanism. And I cry, I expose myself to these things and it feels really bad. My reaction to that is to actually work harder. Some other people's reaction to that might be depression. And we always have to kind of gauge where we're at, and if we're at a place where we can't take something that's going to actually put us in despair rather than hope, right? Or action at least. So we have to be honest with ourselves about those things too. But I don't think choosing constant exposure because we think if we don't, we're letting the animals down is the answer, because then we're letting the whole thing down, because it's not going to do anything to feed us. It's only going to drain us. So we have to find a balance in exposing ourselves, crying, letting ourselves feel it, blocking some of it out, becoming, part of the hope, seeing hope, becoming part of the acting, etc. So it's really, I think, all of these things, and that might change in one single day for us. So that's what I would say to that.
It's such a difficult thing, I think, because at least for myself, being an activist, I always feel like I'm never doing enough. Like there's always more I can do. There's always there's always more animals in need of help and of advocacy. So I think it is very easy to kind of get lost in that and to push yourself. But as you said, like if we push ourselves to the point where we are no longer functional, then we're also not being of service to the animals.
We're not. And it's so cliche. We all hear that. We all say that to each other. I hear it all the time, and I have to be reminded of it all the time. And that's why we need to be a community of supporting each other, because we do need to remind each other. And because it quite literally could be from a day-to-day basis. One day I'm working so hard that I'm in tears. Like, that's not okay, right? That's not sustainable. I can't do it every day. And I need someone to go, tap, tap, hi. Go, leave your computer, go take a walk. Like, you need to go do that. It's okay. And the truth is, when I do that, and I really do need the reminder, I need it from other people around me who love me and who want to support me, whether it's my followers or my husband or my friends or what have you. And then I know when I come back, I do feel so much better. And I feel so much more equipped to be so much more effective, because I'm not that effective when I'm in tears and I'm feeling stressed and I'm so bald with, with despair, anger, or whatever it is. I'm not effective. I'm just not. So we have to learn what our lines are, and we have to be honest with ourselves. And if we can't, if we don't have a good barometer, then we need to check in with the people who love us and say, can you help me find this barometer? Because I don't know what's normal. I don't know what's reasonable. I don't know when to stop. So please help me. And we have to be accountable in that way. That's where we have to ask for the help as well.
I hope you enjoyed hearing Colleen's take on this matter. As I said in the beginning, this is something I myself struggle with. From a very young age, I remember crying in my room because I felt so overwhelmed by the enormity of suffering in the world and my seeming powerlessness against it. I felt like I'd never be able to make the impact that was needed. How could I as a 5-year-old against multi-billion-dollar corporations? My life's quest has been to find a way to make some impact. But for me, it's never enough, and my work is never done. Not until all of the animals are free. What I personally do with all of the outrage, horror, fury, disgust, and sadness is I try to channel all of that energy into my activism. And I try to remember that no matter what I'm experiencing emotionally, it is nothing compared to what the animals are going through, and I owe it to them to do whatever I can. Now, of course, I would not advocate that you drive yourself into the ground and neglect to care for yourself. As I said in my video on whether medication is vegan, and as Colleen also mentioned, if you're not well, then you cannot be of service to the animals. And I truly believe that. Of course, I need to learn to practice what I preach on this. But I tend to be more towards the likes of Gary Yourofsky with being forever unsatisfied. You can watch this bonus video from my interview with Gary where he elaborates on this. It was not publicly aired on my channel. It's on my Patreon page, but open to non-patrons to watch. You can click there or find the link in the video description and in the iCard sidebar. Of course, I suppose if I was completely hopeless, then I wouldn't even bother doing the work that I do. And in the end, I'd take the struggle to stay hopeful while being vegan over the ignorant contribution to the suffering and death of sentient beings while not being vegan anytime. Put another way, I'd rather be aware of the horrors I'm not contributing to than unaware of those I am. Now, I'd love to hear from you about this difficult topic. If you're vegan, how do you stay hopeful in the face of all that we do to the animals? If you're not vegan, have you become aware of these realities? And if so, does that make you want to become vegan or wish that you could go back to not knowing? What struggles have you had with this? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed hearing from Colleen, give this video a big thumbs up and share it around to help others who may be struggling. If you want to help support Bite Size Vegan so I can keep trying to make a difference for the animals, check out either of the support links in the video description below, and for perks and rewards for your support, click on the Nugget Army icon there or the link in the iCard sidebar. If you're new here, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button down there for more awesome vegan content every Monday, Wednesday, and some Fridays. Now go live vegan, get hopeful, and I'll see you soon. One thing I can say is that this girl really helps me keep going. She is the biggest optimist I've ever met. She loves everybody. Even dogs that are trying to be aggressive to her, she tries to be their best friend. And I know I'm wearing a different shirt. It's for the video you'll see on Wednesday. I didn't want to change back. I'm breaking the fourth wall. Thank you for being in the little bonus material.